The Fragments of Love, Chapter 1, Vanessa, a story by Sammy Kay. Vanessa Calumet, the wife. When someone mentions 9/11, a shiver runs down my spine, not only because of the attack on our country, but because during that week, my life began a downward spiral. I would become my worst possible enemy. If I am honest with myself, my path to pain began roughly 2 years earlier. My 55th birthday seems to expose a side of myself that I had rarely witnessed before. I am well aware that I have a strong personality. I know that I can be pushy, maybe even rude, but never with those that I love. Overall, I have gotten much better over the years. I really have. At least, I had gotten better. Intense anger had never been a part of the mix until this time in my life. I have been blessed to have the best husband in the world. We are almost polar opposites. Marcus is 6'6" of gorgeousness. He is a Native American with just enough black spread throughout his genes to give him the look of a big fine Samoan. Marcus is kind and considerate of others, almost to a fault. I am 5'4" in heels. I am pretty and petite with curves. And I am selfish, almost to a fault. Marcus and I met when we were in high school. I loved him from the first moment I saw him. We seriously thought about eloping, but I knew my father. The memories are hard. And Marcus's mother would have tracked us down and locked us up somewhere until we came to our senses. We waited until Marcus got his first degree before we got married. I took my time graduating because I was blessed to get a job as office manager for a growing team of physicians. My job grew along with the practice. I retired last year from the position of director of operations for 6 clinics. I never had to work. Marcus has always been an excellent provider for me and our 2 children. He has always insisted that any money I made was for extras. I love extras. I was a spoiled wife. Anything I wanted, I received. I tried to be mature about stuff, but Marcus made it easy for me to demand so much. Marcus has always known how much I love him. I have supported every dream he has ever had. I would gladly die for him. 6 months ago, I began to feel totally dissatisfied with my life. I was restless, irritated, and short-tempered. Okay, even more than usual. One day, out of the blue, even my eldest grandchild asked me if I was sick. Now, my baby's only 14 years old, and I should have listened closer to what she had to say, or at the very least, question why. But I did not. My mother was the first person to actually confront me about my behavior. I had almost, let me repeat, almost snapped at her about something. I don't remember what. But I remember the day well. Vanessa, what is wrong with you? Something has to be wrong with you to use that tone with me? I'm sorry, Mama. Nothing is wrong with me. I am just tired. Tired of what? You are retired from work. Your housekeeper comes in 3 times a week. Only you and Marcus are here. What on earth could you be tired of? My life, Mama. I am tired of my life. And no disrespect, Mama, but I don't need you to remind me of my many blessings. Please, I know. And you will be surprised to know that, contrary to everyone's belief, Marcus cannot walk on water and he is not a saint. It was a few minutes before my mother spoke. I was surprised by the gentleness in her voice. Okay, now listen to me, Vanessa. You have reached a time in your life when you might wake up with feelings that make absolutely no sense at all. Baby, stop, Mama, please. Do not give me the hormone story. Me and my hormones are just fine. Thank you very much. Vanessa, you were high strung when you were 2 years old. I tried to prepare you for this possibility several years ago, but you refused to listen. Talk to your doctor, baby. Needless to say, I did not listen to my mother or my husband when he suggested that I make an appointment with my doctor. After one of my tantrums, I have rarely allowed anyone to tell me what to feel or how to act. Marcus and I have been married over 30 years. He has worked for the FBI for 20 of those years. He is far from a pushover, and he does have limits. I happen to know what those limits are, and when he gives me that certain look, I back off, sit down, and be quiet. I had decided that I wanted to go on a 2-week international cruise. Marcus hates cruises, but I made the arrangements and planned on surprising him. If I whined and cried long and hard enough, he always gives in. We were scheduled to leave on September 18th. My husband came home on 9/12 and announced that he had to go to New York. He was taking a hand-picked team and would be gone for at least 3 weeks. Surprisingly, he and his team would come home on weekends, which is rarely possible. He suggested that I spend the last week with him in New York because he knows how much I love to shop anywhere, but especially New York. All in all, he was quite pleased with himself. He desperately wanted to help in some way. That is simply who he is. I know that he loves his job, and he is an expert in his field. He also seemed to be excited about the away time we would have together. I, on the other hand, was livid. With much attitude, I told him about the cruise. He looks at me. Okay, so let me see if I can get this straight. Vanessa, are you telling me that you booked a 2-week cruise without mentioning it to me first? Or hell, even as an afterthought? Marcus, it was a surprise. Did you somehow forget that I am not a fan of surprises? And I happen to hate cruises? Or, as is the norm, you basically don't care. My vote goes for number 2. Well, I don't recall you informing me about your trip to New York. Inform you? Vanessa, this is my job. Oh, please, Marcus, you know that you want to go. Always Mr. Wonderful. And I am always the crazy, thankless cow. Cow is not the word that comes to my mind. Frankly, I really don't care. I would never forget that night as long as I live. Marcus left the house. My pathway to pain had officially begun, both receiving and giving. The Fragments of Love, Chapter 2, Marcus. A story by Sammy Kay. Marcus Calumet, the husband. There have been many times during the last 30 plus years that Vanessa has pushed my patience into unknown territory. Never have I been this angry at anyone that I love. My wife is difficult on her best days. In no way, form, or fashion has her attitude and selfishness ever affected my unconditional love for her. The woman I saw tonight was a stranger. I've always been fascinated by the sheer force of my wife's personality. Her passion is a part of every facet of her being. If she loves you with a love so strong it is almost palpable. If she dislikes someone, her dislike is just as obvious. She was 15 years old the first time I saw her. She had her hand on one hip and was shaking her finger in the face of a tall, lanky young man who was trying to pull away from her wrath. I later found out that the young man had made an unacceptable comment about her best friend Lena, who is still her best friend. The fact that she had to look quite a ways up at the young man did not faze her at all. I fell in love with her at that moment. I've always treated my wife in the manner that I felt my mother should have been treated by my father. My father was a man who never figured out how he felt about being a double minority. Although he was proud of his heritage as a Native American / black man, he also had a simmering anger regarding his role in a country that he was taught to love unconditionally by his elders. He was an educated man who allowed his anger to hinder the use of that education to help his people, a people he so desperately wanted to help. His anger kept him from being a loving husband and father. He seemed to be afraid of peace. Maybe he just didn't believe he deserved the life he had worked so hard to build. He was killed in a drunken barroom brawl before he could ever figure out which or what path to take. How sad and ironic that his death would have been fodder for the average armchair racist. I understand my father's frustration. I even understand his anger, but as I stood watching my grandfather and my uncles perform the burial rituals, for this man who never told me he loved me, I made the decision to live my life in a different way. That was also the day that I asked God to come into my life, to show me how to get it right. I fully understood that I can do nothing without his love and guidance. My ancestors from both sides of my heritage have paid for my right to love this country of ours. I decided to join the FBI in order to make a difference from the inside out. One person will not change the system. However, when a door opens for one person, that person can at least attempt to hold the door open for someone else to enter. It's funny how much of your past enters your mind when you are having a hard time dealing with your present. What? I didn't realize I had driven this far. Did my unexpected anger invite the ghost of my father to my pity party? I need to do some serious praying. The bottom line is pretty simple. My wife seems to have lost her mind. I have no doubt that she will go on the cruise without me. I could probably stop her. What would that prove? She has to follow her heart. It is the code we have always honored. Until now, our hearts always manage to follow the same basic path. So, I will go to New York. I will also pray for my wife's safety, my sanity, and our marriage. Am I afraid? Yes. I am very much afraid.